Welcome to an exciting edition of the Boardman Auditorium. Today, February 2nd, 2013, is the day of UFC 156, Aldo versus Edgar. The super fight will happen tonight. And along with that fight, they have three other exciting fights as well. And those three fights could also be a headliner for other pay-per-views. So you have four great pay-per-view main event fights all on one pay-per-view card, and the last one will be the super fight between Aldo versus Edgar. For today in the Boardman Auditorium, I will be going through four fights that will be happening on the pay-per-view card for UFC 156. First fight they'll have will be Damian Maia versus John Fish in the welterweight bout. Next fight, and what it looks like from the way they brought in the weigh-ins yesterday, the next fight will be a heavyweight fight between Antonio Bigfoot Silva versus Alistair the Ream Overeem. Alistair Overeem is a multi-champion. He won the K1 champion. He's the current Strikeforce champion and the current Dream champion. And in December 2011, he made his UFC debut against Brock Lesnar. And at the time, Brock Lesnar was considered the number 3 guy in the UFC heavyweights. Well, we saw Alistair Overeem go through Brock Lesnar like it was nothing. And this is the return of the Ream tonight. And if the Ream wins, he will be facing Cain Velasquez for the UFC heavyweight title. Third fight is going to be Rashad Evans versus Little Nogueira. Rashad Evans, if he wins tonight, there's a good possibility that that win could give him the next shot at UFC's middleweight champion Anderson Silva's belt. And the main event tonight, the super fight, Jose Aldo, the UFC featherweight champion, will be taking on Frankie Edgar, the former UFC lightweight champion. And for years, people have been talking about Frankie Edgar going down to 145 because they felt that would be his natural weight class. Well, he made that decision, and the fight between Aldo and Edgar will be happening tonight. That is a super fight. And throughout the Boardman Auditorium, I will go through and break down each fight and what I think will possibly happen and what the fighters must do to win. So enjoy the special edition of the Boardman Auditorium. For the first fight for the UFC 156, we will have a welterweight bout of Damian Maia versus John Fitch. John Fitch has a record of 24 wins with 4 losses and 1 draw. And Damian Maia has a record of 17 wins and 4 losses. Both fighters are coming off a pretty good streak of wins. John Fitch has 3 of 4 wins, and Damian Maia also has the same. Well, since Damian Maia has gone to welterweight, he is 2-0. He submitted Story and he has defeated Stun Gun Kim. So this should be a very interesting matchup of two excellent grapplers. Both grapplers, or should I say fighters, they do not have a whole lot of knockout power because neither one of them has knocked out anybody in their career. And John Fitch actually seems like he's the better striker of the two. If you go to FightMatrix.com, John Fitch, he's striking slams per minute of 2.75, and he has an accuracy of 50%. And he also has a defense of 55% as well. Well, Damian Maia is not that far behind. His striking accuracy is 41%, and he has a 61% defense. So them standing, they could be standing for a while in the open bout to fill each other out. But I think sooner or later, Fitch is going to take him down. And he should take him down because most of Fitch's striking comes from ground and pound. And Fitch, in his takedowns, he does average 3 takeouts within a 15-minute period, and he has 51%. However, Damian Maia has a 53% takedown. So Damian Maia is very, very good at the takedown defense as well. So based upon those stats, I feel that for Fish to win, he's probably going to have to take this to all 3 rounds to judge's decision, because I don't think I could see Fish submitting Damian Maia. And if you look at his submissions per average, it's hardly, John Fitch hardly ever gets a submission. His submissions per average is 0.82, whereas Damian Maia is 1.44. And I think my opinion of who's going to win the fight tonight, based upon the stats, I'm going to lean towards Damian Maia, because Damian Maia, he is a former middleweight champion, and he still has the strength of a middleweight. And with him looking to submit John Fitch, I think that's highly possible to happen. So that's the reason why I'm going to go with Damian Maia. And the next fight that we have on UFC 156 is a heavyweight bout between Antonio Bigfoot Silva versus Alistair the Ream Overeem. Now, over the fightingmatchup.com, Alistair Overeem has a record of 36-11 in MMA to Antonio's 17-4. But here's a huge significant factor in this fight, I think. With Alistair Overeem, his average fight time has lasted less than 6 minutes to Antonio Silva's 7 minutes to 11. Now, both fighters' height is equal. They're both 6'4", with Antonio Silva having 2-inch reaches with 82, and both fighters are going to be coming in at 265 and 264. Well, they came in weight in yesterday, and by tonight, both fighters are going to probably be right around close to 280 pounds. Now, for Antonio Silva to have a chance against Alistair Overeem, Antonio Silva must try to take Alistair down, because he won't stand a chance standing with the Ream, and here's why. The striking difference is so significant. Alistair Overeem, he has a striking accuracy of 56%, with most of that in the clinch work, to Antonio Silva's overall striking 43%, and Alistair's striking defense at 66%. So the advantage is going to go to Alistair Overeem when it comes to the striking department. So for Antonio Silva, for him to have a chance, he does not want to stand with Alistair Overeem, because Ream, he will hurt you with knees, elbows, punches, kicks, you name it. He is a K1 world champion. So his striking in the heavyweight division is top of the food chain. So for Antonio Silva to have a chance, he must try to take Alistair down the same way that he took down Fedor. But the problem is, Fedor is a lot smaller than Alistair, and taking Alistair Overeem is no easy task. And even if Antonio Silva does take Alistair Overeem down, he's got to deal with an ADCC former world champion. So Alistair has world-class submission on his back as well. And so with Alistair Overeem's striking level, his experience, he's one of the most decorated fighters in mixed martial arts. I would say the favorite leans towards Alistair Overeem in this matchup. Next fight on UFC 156, after the heavyweight bout of Antonio Bigfoot Silva versus Alistair the Ream Overeem, you have a light heavyweight bout of Rashad Sugar Evans versus Antonio Little Nog Nogueira. Little Nog. There's so many Nogueiras, I'm going to refer to the light heavyweight as Little Nog. So you got Little Nog versus Rashad Sugar Evans versus Little Nog. This is going to be a very interesting bout. Rashad Evans, he is in the top 5 of the light heavyweights. He has a record of 17 wins and 2 losses and 1 draw. Those 2 losses came from former light heavyweight champions of Lyoto Machida and John Jones, the current light heavyweight champion. Well, Antonio Nogueira has a record of 20 wins and 5 losses. Both fighters seem very, very well rounded, so we had to break these guys down very carefully. In the striking department, strikes landed per minute by Rashad Evans is 2.1, and for Little Nog it's 2.26. So they're very close, and also their accuracy is very, very similar. Rashad Evans has 38% striking accuracy, with Antonio Rodriguez Nogueira at 34%. And the striking defense is both equal. Rashad has 64% and Little Nog as well. Now, the grappling department is very, very close. With the takedowns, Rashad Evans within 15 minutes is 3.7. Now, the closest between these two guys is their takedown defense. Rashad Evans has 66% and Lil Nog has 65%. Now, what this fight is going to come down to is which fighter is going to try to control this fight in order to put the fight into his favor. Well, based upon studying their last fights, Rashad Evans, who has been on a roll with 4 of his last 5 fights have ended in victory. Rashad Evans has beaten Rashad Evans has beaten Mr. Wonderful Phil Davis. He's beaten Tito Ortiz. He's beaten Rashad Evans, and he's beat Thiago Silva. Now, Antonio Nogueira has been kind of struggling a little bit in his last couple of fights. He's been at about, he's won 3 out of his last 5, so he's right about 60% in his last 5 fights. Well, what I think is going to happen is I think Rashad Evans is going to take down Little Nog. And I think Rashad Evans got the athletic ability. He's going to run through Little Nog's guard. And he's going to get in a favorable position and he's going to dominate. And in the past, Little Nog has struggled against top NCAA wrestlers. He's lost to Phil Davis and Bader. Bader in his fight against Little Nog took him down 5 times. And Phil Davis took him down 4 times. And Rashad Evans has a takedown accuracy of 53%. So in this fight, I am leaning more towards Rashad Evans because I think he's going to take him down. He's going to get in favorable positions, and I think he's going to end up beating him down. So I like Rashad Evans in the fight of his against Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. Now for the breakdown of the super fight between Frankie the Answer Edgar versus Jose Jr. Aldo. Frankie Edgar has 14 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. And he has an average fight time of 16 minutes and 31 seconds. And we've seen Frankie Edgar in some serious wars against Henderson and Gray Maynard. With 2 of his 3 fights against Maynard, he was very successful. And whereas his last 2 fights against Henderson, he was not successful. Jose Aldo, his average fight time is right around 9 minutes and 50 seconds. And his last fight against Mendes, he ended Mendes right towards the end of the first round with a beautiful knee to the head. Now, the striking advantage goes to Jose Aldo. His striking lands per minute is 3.55 to Frankie Edgar's 3.32. The striking accuracy favors Aldo as well. Aldo's got 49% to Frankie Edgar's 40%. And the striking defense is very, very close, with Jose Aldo with 71% and Frankie Edgar has just one higher at 72%. Now, here's something I found very, very interesting in this fight, and this could be a major factor. Jose Aldo has a takedown defense of 95%. And in his last 5 fights that he's been in, he's only been taken down twice. Now, with Frankie Edgar, he averages 2 takedowns within 15 minutes. And he has an accuracy of 37%. So, for Frankie Edgar to have a chance against Jose Aldo, I think Frankie Edgar is going to have to take Jose Aldo deep into the championship rounds. If people remember Jose Aldo's fight against Mark Harmonic, even though Aldo won that unanimously, a lot of people think Aldo might have gotten tired because the fight went a little longer than Aldo anticipated. So for Edgar to have a chance, he's going to have to take Aldo into the deeper rounds. And I think Jose Aldo is going to end up winning the fight because of his speed. I think he's a little bit faster than Frankie Edgar, and he's got knockout power. So I think Frankie Edgar is going to find someone that's faster than him. And we've seen Edgar take some big shots against Gray Maynard. And I think that if he does take big shots against Jose Aldo, I don't think Edgar's going to last very long. So this super fight, possibly if Jose Aldo ends up winning, he's probably going to end up winning before the third round or during the third round. So I'm picking Jose Aldo for this fight over Frankie Edgar. So again, my picks for UFC 156 are for the Maia versus Fitch fight. I will go with Damian Maia because Damian Maia is a little bit stronger, and I think that he will end up submitting Fitch. My pick for Alistair Overeem versus Antonio Bigfoot Silva. I feel that Alistair Overeem is going to knock out Antonio Silva in the first round. And for the fight against Antonio Little Nog versus Rashad Sugar Evans, I feel Rashad Evans is going to take him down sometime, maybe either first, second round. And I think Rashad Evans is going to end the fight in the second round to take down and ground and pound. And for the fight with Frankie Edgar versus Jose Aldo, I think that Jose Aldo will end the fight early. He is going to knock Frankie Edgar out. And those are my picks for UFC 156. And thank you for watching the Boardman Auditorium. And everyone be safe out there as they go out, watch different things. And see you next week.